The Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia is currently hosting the 28th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union. The theme is harnessing the demographic dividend through investment in the youth. The gathering will tackle issues such as institutional reforms in the AU aimed at enhancing governance, but the highlight yesterday was the election of a new chairperson of the AU, Chadian Foreign Minister Moussa Faki Mahamat. Dr. Emmanuel Owusu-Sekyere is a Chief Research Specialist at the Africa Institute of South Africa, and he joins us this morning to talk more about this. It's so good to have you, Dr. Emmanuel. Thanks very much for being our guest.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to your viewers as well.
I think we need to start off right up at the top with, I think, the story that's really rocking the world and worrying the world. One of the global topics, the inclusion of Libya, Somalia and Sudan in American President Donald Trump's list of Muslim undesirables. Do you think African leaders will change their agenda to include this as well?
I doubt it. We have very pressing issues to deal with at this year's AU summit. And those of us in Africa understand that the Somalis and the Sudanese and Libyans are working very hard to fight against probably the same reasons why Trump decided to suspend visas to these countries. At the back of Islamic fundamentalism, Somalia probably the issue of Al-Shabaab, Libya political instability, several factions fighting, and Sudan probably Omar al-Bashir, who's an indicted leader and the president of Sudan. We understand also in this region that when there's political conflict, the spillover effect goes across borders. We've always had open arms to receive our brothers from other countries who are going through conflict and running away from hardship. Each of these countries are being assisted by troops from neighboring countries that are helping to bring stability and sanity back to these countries. So to slap a blanket ban on these countries, including every citizen in Sudan, every citizen in Somalia, every citizen in Libya, is like punishing more of the innocent and none of the guilty in the first place.
Yeah,
so it's a very rash policy, and we hope that he revises his position.
Oh,
it has been condemned by several world leaders as well, I must say.
It certainly is, but as you said, there are very pressing issues to discuss on the agenda already. Let's have a look at some of the agendas, and we'll start off by discussing Morocco being readmitted into the AU. And this, of course, despite what's happening in Western Sahara. And this, of course, it's a big issue, and an issue that the world is becoming more and more aware of. Already a lot of people do talk about it, and it's been a very, very long and protracted battle. I mean, Morocco left the organization in 1984. Why have they been admitted back when this issue is still not resolved?
I think Morocco has lobbied very strongly to be admitted back into the Union. And at the moment, Western Sahara, although being a founding member of the African Union, is not recognized. It's only recognized by one third of the 54 states in the continent. So Morocco has been admitted back. Yes, Western Sahara is still not independent. Yes, but I guess the notion is that Morocco being part of the Union will be easier and more amenable to work with towards the independence of Western Sahara than excluding them from the Union altogether.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure there's still going to be questions around this, and this will be an issue that needs to be tackled a lot more. There is a chair. Let's talk about the legacy of the outgoing chair, though. Our South African representative there, and of course the former chair, that's Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. If you had to pinpoint her legacy, and as she leaves the AU, what would you say she's done for the continent?
Well, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma will be remembered very strongly for championing the rights of women and children, especially the issue of early girl-child marriages. It has been estimated that approximately 125 million of girls, African girls under the age of 18, have already been married off. Some of them are 15 years old. She really championed this cause, crisscrossing the continent to create awareness and bringing that to the attention of African leaders to do something about it. Again, the Agenda 2063, Africa's blueprint for its development over the next 50 years, happened under her watch, which is a very commendable achievement. The other thing was the fact that she started pushing very hard for financial autonomy for the African Union to stop depending on international donor aid, as well as especially from the EU, and find ways of funding the Union itself, and also funds for the Peace Fund as well. So these are three key things that Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma will be remembered for.
So obviously there's a new chair now, Moussa Faki Mahamat. He's the front runner, even though it was a very tightly contested battle for that leadership, and also, I mean, a delay. We saw Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma staying on for another 6 months so that this could be finalized. What do you make of him? Do you think he's going to do good for the continent?
Absolutely. He's a very seasoned international and national politician. He was once the Prime Minister of Chad. He's currently the Foreign Affairs Minister and also the Minister for African Integration. He's served on the United Nations Economic and Social Council, on the AU's Peace and Security Council. He's been very active in the African Union's peace and security portfolio. He played a very key role in two of the most difficult peace negotiations on the continent, being Darfur and South Sudan, successfully. He speaks 3 of the 4 official working languages of the continent, being Arabic, French, and English. So his French made him appeal to the largely Francophone West African region, and also his Arabic made him appealing to the North African colleagues in the Union. And if you listen to his message before the election, he talked about empowering the youth, empowering women and the girl child, the political stability, improving governance on the continent, the youth demographic changes that are expected, political instability, conflict, this upsurge of terrorism once again, what needs to be done, and also addressing the Anglophone-Francophone divide and the language conflicts on the continent. So he mentioned things that resonate very closely to the prevailing and pertaining challenges of the African Union going forward that needs to be dealt with. That made him more relevant to the position and more suitable for the position than other candidates per se.
Another issue is the fact that there's a report that's supposed to be presented by Rwandan President Paul Kagame on institutional reforms within the AU with the aim of improving governance. What do you know about this? Is this still going ahead?
Yes, Paul Kagame was mandated at the last, or charged with the duty of leading a team that would propose some reforms to the African Union at the 27th summit in Rwanda, Kigali. The African Union is accused of extreme bureaucracy and red tape that affects its efficiency and effectiveness in implementing its programs and projects. And also one sticking issue that is the issue of funding for the African Union, how to make it financially autonomous from the EU and other international organizations, which in itself undermines the concept of emancipation and self-determination of the continent. So Paul Kagame put together a team of experts to look at these issues, and he's supposed to propose their initial findings at the 28th summit in Addis Ababa today. Either yesterday or today, probably one of the days. So basically, it's meant to be an attempt to address and review the voting process for resolutions, largely procedural and processes for administrative and operational, day-to-day operation of the African Union, to make it more efficient and more effective and reduce the bottlenecks that exist at the moment.
All right, we're running out of time. It's basically time for our news headlines, but for our news at 8. But we'd like to thank you very much for talking to us and giving us just a little bit of background as to what to expect, and a look at the AU, as well as what we find quite important is having a look at South Africa's role, particularly when we had our Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma chairing that AU and finding out what her legacy would be. That was the Chief Research Specialist at the Africa Institute of South Africa, Dr. Emmanuel Owusu-Sekyere.